first place Baltimore Ravens to head to Dallas. Many of our fans already in the Big D in Arlington and Fort Worth. I will be on the scene on Sunday. Luke's been on the field in Owings Mills all week long. And lo and behold, Thursday evening when all is silent, the ghosts of 52 pass come forward, and Ray Lewis is caught criticizing Joe Flacco on the eve of them playing an 8-1 team. Is this bulletin board material, Luke Jones? What's going on here with Ray Lewis and Joe Flacco?
Well, I mean, this is something that isn't entirely new. I mean, Ray Lewis had a few different points, especially earlier in Joe Flacco's career when they were still playing together, had made mention of Flacco being more fiery. That's not anything new. We've heard that before as far as his demeanor on the sideline and the enthusiasm or lack of enthusiasm that he shows. I mean, that's something that's, at this point, pretty low-hanging fruit, quite frankly. So we've heard that. There was Joe Flacco famously saying in the weeks and months after the Super Bowl that there were plenty of times that he didn't understand what Ray Lewis was talking about during speeches, which was kind of.
Well, neither is any of the rest of us. If you actually, if you decipher it and put it, on the paper, most of it didn't make sense. And Joe had no problem pointing that out to me when I was writing the book, and then later pointed it out to Kevin Van Valkenburg, and then that became news. And okay. I mean, 9 years into this thing with Flacco, I can't believe that anybody. I mean, if you want to question his decision-making and throwing the ball across his body and throwing off his back foot and the injury and his eliteness and how Tom Brady or Peyton Manning are better quarterbacks, which I don't even, I guess he would argue that, but most of the rest of us wouldn't give him the body of work. But to argue passion is. That's just a stupid thing. I don't know what else to say. I know of no nice way to say that a guy who has rehabbed his knee to come back to play at this level, who's in first place, who is running for his life every week behind that offensive line, that this is a good time to say, you want to talk about lost your passion for the game. That's Elvis Gerback when he doesn't want to play anymore. That's the kid from San Francisco when he says, I don't want to play anymore, right? I mean, when you say you don't want to play anymore, that's when you lose the passion for the game. If you go out there and run around every Sunday and do this and do what it takes to go through to be a football, coming off the lips of Ray Lewis, he should be ashamed of himself. He should be.
Well, I'll say this, and I don't disagree with you, but I'll say this.
Thank you.
Ray Lewis was a teammate of Joe Flacco's for 5 years. He knows way more about Joe Flacco's passion than someone like you or me, quite frankly, because we never played with him. There are different degrees of passion, and I'll even go as far to say there might be some truths, some semblance of truth in what Ray says. But that said, if you saw the segment, and we're talking about a conversation he had with Jason Whitlock on FS1.
Who's also an idiot, by the way, but let me just point that out. Him and Bayless and all. I mean, this is what they do. They sit around and they wait for someone like Ray Lewis to say something stupid, and then we sit around here and talk about it. And after 25 years of doing it, when you're talking about questioning the passion of a guy who's leading the team into battle on Sunday and did last week and has won a Super Bowl, that's when I call BS on that, Luke. I do.
Well, like I said, even if there's some truths within that, and again, I didn't play with Joe Flacco. I can't comment on that in the same way that a teammate of his can say. I can say I haven't heard other teammates question his passion, but what I really had the big problem with is Ray Lewis only mentioning in passing that they won a Super Bowl together. Like Joe Flacco wasn't the biggest reason that
Ray Lewis was almost the reason Joe Flacco didn't get a ring. Because Ray Lewis was running around on the back end, couldn't catch anybody at that point.
The whole defense in the second half was bad.
Fair enough,
until the goal line stand. But my point is,
it's been 3.5 years. Maybe you forgot the oysters, the char-grilled oysters down there, and Beyonce and Jay-Z running around, and I haven't forgotten all that. That's a shame. It's a shame. I mean, shame on Ray Lewis. That's what I think.
Well, again, I don't. He's in the media now. To what degree? He's part of that. So, and you just mentioned, some guys on FS1. You have guys on ESPN. You have Stephen A. Smith's another one. Guys are going to make comments that are going to ruffle feathers. They're trying to get ratings. They're trying to get attention. They're trying to get people like you and me talking about it the next day, which they succeeded in doing. But again, if you're going to question his passion, which I don't really agree with, but I'm not I've never been his teammate, so I don't really have a great perspective like someone who's played with him would, you have to mention that, well, even if I sometimes have thought maybe he's not as passionate as he needs to be, it certainly wasn't an issue when he threw 11 touchdowns and no interceptions in the 2012 playoffs, and he's the biggest reason why I got a second Super Bowl ring. To not mention that is a terrible look, and it really reeks of having an axe to grind, maybe still being sore about Flacco poking fun at his speeches, whatever it is. If you're going to question his passion, you're going to do that, you damn sure better mention that the guy was the biggest reason why you won your second Super Bowl ring, because that's absolutely true, and I don't see how anyone could dispute that.
It's the only reason Ray had a chance to win a second Super Bowl over those last 4 years of his career.
No doubt about it. So, that part of it to me was extremely unfair. Like I said, I'm even willing to admit, could there be some semblance of truth there? Fine. I mean, that's his opinion. And again, he played with him for 5 years, but, to make it sound as though Joe was just, just there as part of the Super Bowl and not the biggest reason why they won is just, that to me was what really bothered me more than anything. It's clear this has been one of Joe's worst years. There's no doubt about it. Even with the offensive line being what it is, even with the running game being what it is, Joe hasn't played very well, and he's got to own that, and he deserves criticism for that in the same way that many other members of that offense deserve criticism. Heck, it cost Mark Trestman his job back in October. But for Ray just to attack his passion for the game and at the same time offer nothing else about what was going on in the field, not talking about the offensive line, not even talking about Joe's decision-making or throwing off his back foot or coming off of a knee injury, that to me, that wasn't a good look. And I think that...
dude spent
really
6 months in the
low.
trainer's room to get ready to come back out and play, and then you're going to say that he doesn't want to play? I mean, come on. I mean, it's absurd.
I mean, that's... again, passion, there are different degrees of passion. Ray Lewis had more passion for this game than, or certainly no one had more than him. Let's put it that way. But, just because you're a Hall of Famer in terms of giving motivational speeches and being real demonstrative, there are different temperaments that you can have to be a great player. And just because you have a different kind of temperament that is the opposite of what Ray Lewis had on the field, doesn't mean you lack passion. Doesn't mean you don't care.
Phillip Rivers runs around like a linebacker. He ain't one squad. I mean, come on. I mean, there's a different heartbeat for everyone. I mean, Troy Aikman was probably similar to Joe Flacco in his demeanor, won a lot of championships. So
Eli Manning is almost a carbon copy to Joe Flacco in that way, and he's won 2 Super Bowls. So
and Manning, the other Manning talked about the drunk kicker and different stuff at various points, and cried a lot to the officials. Quite frankly, was a bit of a whiner rat on the field. Elway was an assassin. I mean, Roger Staubach never said a word to anybody. So to hear all of this, it doesn't mean anything. Well, you know what means something? Joe's got to go down to Dallas and win a football game on Sunday against the team that a lot of people think are going to be playing in the Super Bowl in 12 weeks. And they've got a kid down there that's throwing it. They got a guy that's running the ball. They got an offensive line that's intact. But they've also got some injuries in the defensive side of the ball. And the Ravens are getting healthier. I saw Elvis Dumervil out there running around this week, right?
Yeah, Elvis Dumervil back on the practice field. It's looking pretty good for his status. I don't want to say he's for sure going to play, but a full participant this week in practice. We'll see what Sunday brings for him. It's been a long layoff. I mean, he played the 2 games in early October. It was clear that foot, that ankle area was not where it needed to be from a strength and explosiveness standpoint. So, I think, he talked on Thursday, said he's going to leave it up to John Harbaugh. We're not expecting John Harbaugh to declare him as definitely going to play, but it looks like that'll be an interesting decision. And Marshall Yanda, a full participant this week. He's not 100%. He's far from 100%, and that shoulder is going to be a real question mark, not just for Sunday, but for the rest of the year, whether he's going to be able to play through that. But Ravens are looking healthier. I mean, the one question mark this week, new question mark anyway, has been Jimmy Smith with a back issue. Harbaugh said on Wednesday he expects him to play, but backs are tricky. And if we don't see him back on the practice field between now and Sunday, then that's going to create some more doubt, and clear that they need him. I mean, with Des Bryant being the talent that he is, having the size, the catch radius that he has, you would expect Jimmy Smith to travel with him on defense. So that's the one.
That's an interesting decision for Dean Pease and for the defense to make, right? Week to week, who travels with who? With Pryor last week, the guy that can kill you. I mean, Des Bryant. If they lose on Sunday because Des Bryant beats them, shame on them, right?
Yeah, well, but if Jimmy Smith's not out there, I understand it way more because
Sure.
They don't have anyone else who can physically match up with him. I mean, with Jimmy, and it's not a knock on Tavon Young whatsoever. He's played at a really high level, but he's 5'9", so you have to pick and choose how you're going to match up. Now, when the Ravens played Pittsburgh 2 weeks ago, Antonio Brown's not a big receiver, so they didn't feel that Jimmy traveling with him was was something that they needed to do. Because it is more of a challenge when you have a corner who's following someone, shadowing someone all across the field. It does, potentially compromise different coverages you want to run. So that would be something I anticipate them doing with Des Bryant, and assuming Jimmy is ready to go, and assuming John Harbaugh was being truthful and there's no setback or anything like that, I would expect we'll see him matched up on Des, like we saw him with Terrell Pryor, and like we've seen him with some other bigger receivers that the Ravens have faced this year.
Luke Jones can be reached, Luke at WNST.net. He's also Baltimore Luke on Twitter. We'll be on Twitter all day on Sunday, examining all aspects of the Ravens and the Cowboys. Luke, I think I've talked to everybody in Dallas this week. Just about the strengths and the weaknesses and what their perceptions are, and this Romo thing. I really was hoping a couple of weeks ago that we would have this quarterback controversy thing happening in Dallas, right? Like that there would be some sort of tumult there, right? There always is. There's always controversy in Dallas. They're never this good. It's never this peaceful. They've had a transition of quarterback that's been peaceful. We can only hope this country's this peaceful come January and February when there's transition. I thought that we would be entering a mess. Instead, it feels like there's some sort of coronation going on with the Cowboys over the next 6-7 days, right? Because they're going to play on Thursday. They're going to play the Redskins. The feeling is they're a big favorite this week, that they're better than the Ravens, that they will be better than the Redskins on short rest on Thursday. I don't know. I don't know. I don't see them as going 15-1. I don't see them as, and having watched them play most of the afternoon on Sunday, I think they're a good team, but I don't think this is out of the reach of the Ravens that, this is the Browns going somewhere trying to win a game. I think the Ravens can win this game on Sunday, and I can anticipate some ways that they could actually do that, but it has to start with the offensive line. What do you see as the front five here on Sunday?
Well, to go back to your one point for a moment about the quarterback situation in Dallas, that'll change when they lose a game. And if Dak Prescott throws 2 picks, and that's not to say I don't think Dak Prescott is the future of that franchise.
I said this week, Tony Romo has not thrown his last meaningful pass.
No doubt.
And someone said, well, last week they're playing the Eagles. If they got the thing in the bag, Romo will go out there and run around to save Dak for, bye week. And I'm thinking to myself, that's not the way this works. You know what I mean? Like, at some point, they're going to have to call on Tony Romo, and they're going to be happy they have him.
And I don't even know if it'll be performance-based. I mean, I think back to Drew Bledsoe in the 2001 AFC Championship. I mean, he's the reason why New England got to the Super Bowl. They went back to Tom Brady, and they were wise to do that, and certainly we know how that played out. But
that's worked out well.
Yeah. So,
Books have been written.
I guarantee you, that's all I thought when I saw Romo talk on Tuesday, that he's going to have a Drew Bledsoe moment at some point this year, whether it's week 15 and they're sewing up home field advantage, or whether it's the divisional round after Prescott tweaks his ankle or something like that and has to either miss the rest of the game or miss 3 series because he has to get it wrapped up or is trying to walk it off. But going back to the Ravens' offensive line, I mean, I think what we're going to see, it probably should be pretty clear cut. I think we'll see John Urschel at left guard. Yanda has been a full participant, so I think we'll see him at right guard. I mean, it's just going to be a pain tolerance and an effectiveness thing for him. I mean, this is a guy who's not 100%. I don't think he's close to 100%. There was legitimate talk at the beginning of the week about him being placed on IR. And from what I understand, I mean, I don't know if he went and got a second opinion, but he at least consulted with medical experts as far as
He'll be the last guy on the face of the earth to make that decision, right? Like, literally, you're talking about passion, and that was our topic matter this way. I mean, he's as tough a dude as I've ever seen in a purple jersey. I mean,
and it's funny you mention that because there's a perfect example of a guy who no one can question his toughness or passion, but he's not a demonstrative guy whatsoever. I mean, he has no interest in talking to the media. He's polite and will do it, but he's not a guy who likes doing that. He doesn't like having the limelight. He's a 5-time Pro Bowl player, and he's a guy that would much rather you not pay attention to what he does. But this is something that I don't know if he's going to make it through the year. I mean, he's got structural damage to that shoulder. He won't talk about the specifics of it, but it's clear this isn't just some tendonitis or something, a mild shoulder separation or anything like that. I mean, this is a legitimate thing that I'm guessing he's going to have surgery on after the season or whenever he has to stop playing here, but between now and the end of the year, if it gets to that. But the offensive line should be relatively clear-cut. We'll see Stanley at left tackle. You hope he continues to work his way back to pre-injury form. He was better against Cleveland than he was against Pittsburgh, so that was good to see. Like I said, I think we'll see Urschel at left guard. Jeremy Zuda got the day off on Thursday, but should be good to go at center. He's been dealing with that ankle issue. And then we'll see Yanda and we'll see Rick Wagner. So,
to some degree, this was the starting lineup in minicamp, right? Before Alex Lewis emerged and Urschel got injured, minus Yanda's shortcomings or whatever the issue is with his injury. But this was the starting lineup on paper in all of the Sporting News preseason guides, right?
Yeah, it was. I mean, they weren't convinced that Urschel was definitely going to be that guy, and certainly his shoulder issue in training camp complicated that. But they really like Alex Lewis at left guard. I mean, as much as he struggled, as you would expect, a guy swinging out to tackle, especially a rookie swinging out to tackle in his first NFL season, he played pretty well at left guard and was really coming on before he hurt himself. So, this offensive line, it's been okay when it's been fully healthy. It's never really played really well as a cohesive unit, and we'll have to see how that looks. I mean, can John Urschel step up and play at the level that Alex Lewis was starting to find before he got hurt? Can Marshall Yanda, at whatever he is, whether it's 75%, 80%, 85%, I mean, I don't think he's anywhere remotely higher than that as far as where he ranks right now in his health. Can that still get the job done? I mean, I'll take a Marshall Yanda at less than 100% than just about anyone in the NFL, but that only works to a point.
Well, Baldinger called him the best guard in football this week, right? I mean, and that's a guard given that praise, and Baldy doesn't give that kind. I mean, that we don't notice it around here. We don't talk about it around here, and we knew how good Ogden was, but Yanda's in that hall of the next level. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Yeah, I mean, if he, the reality is, if he goes on to play another 3-4 years and makes 4 more Pro Bowls, I mean, he's going to be a guy that's at least on that list when they get down to the semifinalists and the finalists and all of that. He'll at least be on that list at some point. It'd be hard to say he'll make the Hall of Fame because it's a pretty exclusive group when you're talking about non-left tackle offensive linemen. It feels, but he's certainly in that equation. So, but you're absolutely right. I mean, so many people have talked about this matchup being the number one run defense against the number one rushing attack, and I get that. That's the juicy storyline here. There's no doubt about that, and I'm looking forward to that, and I've written about that this week at WNST.net. But the big key for me is, what does the Ravens offense do? This is a Ravens offense that has to score into the 20s, and they've had trouble doing that this year, quite frankly. And this isn't a great Dallas defense, but it's good enough. And the reality is, you look at what the Ravens' schedule has been this year. They haven't gone up against a lot of great defenses, and they've had several pedestrian to even bad defenses shut them down, even playing at home. So that's where you really look at this, and you kind of ask yourself, the 22 points that they were able to score against Cleveland in the second half, which is the worst defense in the NFL, was that the start of a breakthrough, or was that just a byproduct of playing the worst team in the league? And that's the big question. They're going to find out very quickly on Sunday, but this is a team that has to score points. And I fully expect this Ravens defense that is really good. Now, whether they're special, whether they belong in that exclusive group of the better defenses in franchise history, that remains to be seen. And this is an opportunity for them to make a statement that they belong in that conversation. But I do believe that this defense is going to do the kind of job that they're not going to. Ezekiel Elliott's not going to run for 175 yards. I just don't see that. This run defense is too good for that to happen. I'd be very surprised. But they're not going to completely shut out the Dallas Cowboys either, and it would be unfair to expect that. My fear for this game is the Ravens keep it really close with Dallas through three quarters, and the defense is doing a heck of a job. And say Zeke Elliott has 20 carries and only has 61 yards, doing a nice job on him. But if the offense can't sustain drives and can't stay on the field and can't score touchdowns and keep up, so to speak, I fear under that scenario that you could see the defense wear down in the fourth quarter a little bit. So that's where, to me, the biggest key is, can this Ravens offense finally rise to the level that it needs to be for this team to do some things? I mean, they're in first place, don't get me wrong. They deserve credit for that. They've been the best of what's been a lousy division. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. But to show that they're going to be able to get the job done here over the final 7 weeks, this offense has to play at a much higher level, ranging from the O-line to the running game to wide receivers and tight ends to Joe Flacco. They all have to be better. There's no doubt about that. So that, to me, is the big key. This is a solid Dallas defense. Ravens are playing on the road, and I think it's worth noting Dallas coming off of a major emotional win for them at Pittsburgh, and as you pointed out, they're welcoming their division rival to town on Thanksgiving. So this sets up to be potentially a trap game situation for Dallas, and throw the Romo stuff in there as far as some emotion from that as well. But at the same time, this Ravens offense needs to play its best game of the year, and Joe Flacco needs to play his best game of the year if they're going to pull off an upset. Because while I'm with you that I don't expect Dallas to go 15-1, this is a really good football team, and they deserve just about all the praise that they've been getting so far this year, because they've answered every challenge. And I'll even throw this one out there. Back in Week 6, Green Bay went to Dallas as the number one run defense. Or no, Dallas went to Green Bay and faced the Packers run defense that was number one at that point in time.
Shredded them.
And they ran for almost 200 yards. So, that just shows that they've done it against some other good run defenses. But at the same time, I don't think they've played a run defense like the Ravens so far this year. So I think the Ravens defense will be ready to answer the challenge, at least to some degree. I don't know if the Ravens offense is going to be ready to answer the challenge.
My concerns, you talk about, will Zeke Elliott run for 175 yards? Probably not, but if he does, they're going to lose. And if he does, it's going to be because he has a 58-yard, run where nobody can catch him, right? And I think Des Bryant also. You go back to the Giants game, I mean, that whole game was about Odell Beckham matching up on a fifth corner that's no longer in the league, right? So big plays will be a difference maker in this. If the Ravens stop drives, okay. I mean, if there's a 12-play drive that ends in a field goal or a touchdown, I'll hear that. I think the big play thing could be, if you see one or two of those, the Ravens can't make up for that, because I don't think the Ravens have big playability right now, and that's one of the problems that they have to be methodical getting down the field. They have to be good in the red zone. Justin Tucker has to hit field goals because drives are going to stall. So knowing all of that, you can't have the ball go over your head, and you can't have someone miss a tackle in the middle of the field and then try to chase down Zeke Elliott on some sort of an angle. That would be a death knell to them. A couple of big plays, and the Ravens are in trouble Sunday.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you on that. I mean, like I said, the one scenario where I could see the defense faltering would be if the offense going 3 and out, not sustaining drives. And let's say it's a 13-10 through three quarters, but the Ravens defense has been on the field a ton. that's where I could see them maybe wearing down, and that's when Elliott could get some yards and kind of put this.
Well, that's been the story for him. I mean, he's been a fourth quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, and you got to make sure he's not a fourth quarterback on you on Sunday. That's all.
I mean, now Dallas is clearly an exception to the overall rule, but very few teams come out grinding with the running game in the first quarter. I mean, this league has become way more about you use your running game to sew up a lead. I mean that's what it's about. I mean football's always been about that, but now more so than ever, you kind of pass to get a lead and you run to protect the lead. And Dallas kind of goes against that. I mean, clearly they haven't asked Dak Prescott to do a ton, but at the same time, let's not sleep on him. I mean, this isn't a kid who has been Trent Dilfer either. I mean, look at his numbers. He's got 14 touchdowns, 5 more than Joe Flacco right now, and he's got 2 interceptions. So, his passing yardage is almost identical.
Well, he's taking better care of the ball than Flacco has.
Oh, he's done a much better job taking care of the ball, but he's got some weapons as well. You mentioned Dez. Jason Witten is the elder statesman of that group. But he can still hurt you. He can still move the chains. I mean, he's not explosive, but and they've got some other players. Cole Beasley in the slot is someone to watch out for. So this is a talented offense. Everyone talks about the rookies, and rightfully so. But it starts with the big boys up front. Just an incredible offensive line that it's going to be fun to see Brandon Williams and Timmy Jernigan and Michael Pierce go up against an offensive line that has 3 former first-round picks. Just keep that in mind. But Dallas has some. They've got some talented skill position players beyond just their big names. So the Ravens gonna have the work cut out for them. There's no doubt. I'm in agreement with you that they can win this game. The Ravens aren't the Cleveland Browns. They're not Jacksonville going in there. But
they are put together a lot better than they were during the losing streak. I mean, they didn't have players. They didn't have C.J. Mosley on the field. They didn't have Suggs on the field. So they didn't have Steve Smith on the field. They have those guys on the field now. They're a better team than they were a month ago. That shouldn't come as a shock to anyone. Yeah.
I agree with you, and I think that I fully expect them to compete. But at the same time, I need to see this offense play its absolute, and it can't even really be close. This offense needs to play by far its best game of the season on Sunday if they're going to win. Until I really see them do that against someone other than the Cleveland Browns, I can't have a ton of faith that that's going to happen. But this team can go in there and pull off an upset. There's no doubt about that.
Luke Jones can be reached. Baltimore Luke on Twitter, as well as Luke at WNST.net. He's on the scene. We'll be tweeting away all Sunday afternoon. I am headed to Dallas for full coverage out at WNST.net, as well as throughout our social media. You can always email me, nasty at WNST.net. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram. Streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. We'll have some post-game radio for you on Sunday as well at WNST, as well as in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault, where all of our stuff lives. You can download the TuneIn Radio app. We come in crystal clear from Fort Worth to Dallas to Arlington, all the way back to Baltimore. Morning newspaper ships to your email inbox at 7 a.m. It's all brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. Still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life there. And breaking news, injuries, scratches, all of that stuff. And if the Orioles do anything over the weekend, you'll get it first on the WNST text service. That is brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis Kolatzos is here every Thursday, driving you home from 3 until 5 and wishing everybody a happy Thanksgiving as well. Lots of radio ahead, lots of analysis of the Dallas Ravens game, and a whole weekend of sports ahead here. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.